They lied to you about the ending. They convinced you that the show ends the moment the screen goes black. Look at your hands, touch your face. Do they feel firm? Do they feel real? Materialistic science teaches us that we are composed solely of this body, that our consciousness is merely a chemical trick of our brain, which dissolves into eternal nothingness the moment our heart stops beating. What if I told you that your brain has never produced a single thought in your entire life? What if I told you that death doesn't mean turning off the light, but breaking the bulb that gave off light? Today, we're not here to comfort you. We're here to wake you up. You are not a radio. You are a signal. And a signal is not afraid of a hammer. Welcome to the Quantum Frequency of the Mind channel. If you're here, it's because the conventional explanation no longer satisfies you. You sense a gap in the understanding of reality we've been taught. Fear of death is the most powerful control mechanism of all. It keeps us small, causes us to cling to trivial matters, and forces us to live on the defensive. But today we're changing the narrative. In this film, we use radio theory to dispel the fear of nothingness. We will look at the scientific evidence that the brain functions as a filter rather than a generator. We will discuss what happens if this filter fails. I'm not asking you to blindly believe. I'm asking you to listen with the part of you that already knows the truth. Your continued growth requires that you stop identifying with a faulty device. Prepare yourselves. We are about to tune into the frequency of eternity. To understand what happens later, we must be brutally honest about what happens now. What is life, biologically speaking? Physicist Erwin Schrödinger, one of the fathers of quantum mechanics, defined life as temporary resistance. The universe knows only one direction: entropy, disorder. Everything that exists decays. Mountains turn to sand, stars lose their fuel, hot coffee cools. But your body is doing something wonderful right now. You're swimming against the current. Every second, your cells are repairing mistakes, your blood is pumping nutrients, and your immune system is fighting off invaders. Life is not an object you possess. It is an activity performed by the body. It is a constant struggle against chaos. Imagine your body as a city under siege. As long as the power is on, the walls hold. The lights are on, traffic flows. Biological death, however, is merely the moment when the energy required to maintain order exceeds available resources. It is a physical tragedy, not a moral one. When a city collapses, when the neurons' lights go out, conventional science says, look, the city is empty, the inhabitants have disappeared. Because they confuse architecture with its inhabitants. They confuse the physical medium with the information that permeates it. Therein lies the logical fallacy, the assumption that destroying the medium erases the message. If I burn a book, will I destroy the story, or will I only destroy the paper and ink? History still exists in the mind of the author, in the minds of the readers, in the field of ideas. Your body is a book. Your consciousness is history. And history is not made of atoms. Let's take a closer look at the heart of the mystery. Commonly accepted neuroscience is based on the unproven dogma that matter creates mind. They tell you, see, if I damage this area of your brain, you'll lose the ability to speak. Consequently, your brain generates language. This seems logical, but the logic is flawed. Let's go back to the image of the radio. If I disconnect the cable from the radio, the sound is distorted. If I damage the speaker, the sound disappears. An alien unfamiliar with radio waves observing this phenomenon might conclude, quite clear, the music is generated by the internal circuitry of this box. The box is the musician. But we know this isn't true. Radio doesn't create music. Radio receives a signal already present in the air and converts it into audible sounds. The radio is a limiter. It receives a huge frequency band and selects only a small portion of it. William James and Henri Bergson, giants of thought, assumed that the brain had a reduction function. The brain is like a valve. Universal consciousness is too vast, too luminous, too complex to be controlled by a biological organism that simply needs to survive, eat, and reproduce. If you experience full awareness right now, you wouldn't even be able to tie your shoes. You would be overwhelmed by infinity. The brain works like very dark sunglasses. It blocks 99% of light, allowing us to see this small, three-dimensional world without burning our retinas. So what happens when you die? What happens when the radio finally breaks? The materialist says the end of music. The receiver theory says the end of distortion. The filter cracks, the tube shatters, and for the first time, the signal returns to its original strength. Death is not a black hole. It is complete exposure to light. It's not just philosophy, we have data. Data that dogmatic science desperately tries to ignore because it doesn't fit the model. Let's talk about cardiac arrest. When the heart stops beating, blood flow to the brain is almost immediately interrupted. Within 10 to 20 seconds, measurable electrical activity drops to zero. The EEG remains flat. According to the brain creates mind model, there should be absolute emptiness at this moment. No perception, no time, no self. Yet the 20% of people who have regained their lives tell a different story. Just when the radio was turned off, broken and without power, the music was louder than ever. These individuals report experiences of hyper-reality. These are not dreams. Dreams are blurry and fading. These experiences are described as more real than real life. Colors are more vivid, thoughts come instantly, and understanding is complete. Some patients may recount conversations between doctors while they were clinically dead, describing surgical instruments they couldn't physically see. There is a well-known case of people born blind who saw for the first time during a near-death experience. They saw their bodies, space, and colors. Returning to their bodies, they were blind again. How can this be explained? If the brain creates sight, how can a blind and dead brain see? The answer is simple, but terrifying to the ego. You don't see with your eyes. You see with your eyes. Consciousness is not local. When the biological bond is severed, a person does not lose their abilities. They develop them. They detach from the drone and return to the pilot. These people return changed. They no longer fear death. Not because they believe, but because they know it. They determined that the signal was still being received even without the device. They briefly discussed phase 3, destroying the container to release its contents. But now we must face the pain. Why does the absence of those we love hurt so much when we are eternal? Why do we feel as if a part of our body has been ripped away? We must distinguish between energetic reality and biological habit. As long as you are alive, your brain is a predictive machine. It creates models. When you love someone, your brain creates a virtual model of that person. You store their reactions, their scent, their voice. Biologically, grief is a system failure. The brain sends a signal to an external model, but receives no response. There's a miscalculation. The pain you feel is your brain's desperate attempt to update its map of reality. But here's the truth of quantum mechanics. In the Vedic view, the wave and the ocean are not separated. When a wave breaks on the shore, the water does not die. It becomes the ocean again. The connection you have with this person wasn't between two bodies. It was between two harmoniously resonating frequencies. This resonance is indestructible. Modern psychology speaks of lasting bonds. Relationships do not end with death, but rather change their state. It moves from the physical sphere, touch, seeing, feeling, to the extra-local sphere, perception, intuition, being. They haven't disappeared. They've simply changed their broadcast frequency. They can no longer be received on AM or FM. You have to tune in to the broadband of pure consciousness. The pain you feel is resistance to mood change. Stop seeking its physical form. It is ash. Seek its energetic trace. It is eternal. Listen to the silence. There you will find it. So what changes for you today? If you accept the radio theory, your life will never be the same. Knowing that your body is only a temporary antenna, you stop being irritated by scratches in its paintwork. Death acts like an unforgiving mirror. It robs you of everything that doesn't belong to you. Money, status, followers, resentments, fears. All of it belongs to the radio, not the signal. It all stays here. Awareness of your eternal nature should make you more alive, not less. Epicurus said that death means nothing to us, but he was wrong. Death concerns us because it shapes life. Since you know your broadcast time on this frequency is limited, how do you intend to use the microphone? Do you want to spread noise, complaints, and fear? Or do you prefer to play the music louder? Don't wait until the radio goes off to realize you're free. Turn off autopilot now. The quantum field heard your call. It brought you here to remind you who you are. You are not a machine. You are an operator. Now, I have a task for you. An act of will. Go to the comments. Declare your independence from matter. Write, I am a signal. Do this exercise to solidify this concept in your subconscious. Subscribe to the Quantum Frequency of the Mind channel. Turn on notifications. We continue to broadcast on frequencies the world ignores. Stop identifying with silence. You are the sound that never dies. Shape your destiny. Let the frequency be.